Good evening, Chicago. Welcome on in to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It's been a while since we've talked Bears. That ends tonight. Training camp is here. Players are scheduled to report by tomorrow. Some players are already in. The rest are expected to report tomorrow, save for a couple of major exceptions. We will talk about the players that we're excited to see that are reporting, and what about those guys that aren't going to be there? What should we expect? Then some off-field stuff with the Bears. The city came out with fresh new plans in its desperate bid to keep the Bears playing at Soldier Field and not relocating out to the burbs. We will talk about that. And maybe some uniform talk with the Bears as well, as they unleashed a new helmet that they're going to wear a couple times this season. So lots of football talk on pace tonight. But we're not going to talk just Bears. No, we're going to be looking at the White Sox as well, coming out lukewarm at best out of the All-Star break. Is this just what this team is going to be going forward? Are they ever going to hit the gas pedal and move forward with this? And then finally, the Chicago Sky. They're taking part in the Commissioner's Cup game tomorrow night against the Las Vegas Aces. What is the Commissioner's Cup? Well, we will break that down and preview the match. All that plus more this week on Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle it on up. Let's have some fun. And hello and good evening once again, everyone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. So excited to be with you guys here tonight, the final Monday in July. A week from tonight, we are into the month of August. Can you already believe it? For my wife, we're 5 months away from Christmas. Can you believe that? My goodness, where is all the time going? Well, one good thing about the time moving quickly, it means football is right around the corner, and we are going to be talking a lot of football here tonight on the program, diving in heavy as we get ready for training camp to start tomorrow. Without any further ado, though, we do need to acknowledge our sponsors, starting, of course, with the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed, to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Find them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or Facebook Southern California Warriors. And, of course, East Radio, we have been around now for the last 8 years, bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. And with your help, we're ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on all of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And ways to follow along with the network: on Twitter, IE Sports Radio, Instagram, IE Sports Radio, TikTok, IE Sports Radio, Facebook, IE Sports Radio. And shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you for continuing to show us your support on Patreon. It allows us to do things like do some live broadcasts over on Mixler.com along with our sister stations, USRN and WSR. So thank you for your support. And for everybody hanging out live with us tonight in the Spreaker.com chat, good evening to you guys. I see Taryn and Kale, and we've also got John Felipe from the Carolina Cast in there. Good evening, gentlemen. Good to see you guys. Sorry for the little bit of a delay in getting the show started. We was just having some technological troubles, but we got everything sorted, and we are good to go now. Let's talk football. I know the calendar still says July. We've preseason doesn't even start for another couple weeks yet, but we got the Hall of Fame game next week for whatever that's worth. But training camp starts tomorrow. It's been a while since we've talked Bears. Let's dive on in. Let's get into the madness that is the NFL season, shall we? Lots going on for this Bears season. If you weren't aware, last week and this week, Larry has been very busy on 3 and Out, previewing every single team across 8 days, doing 8 divisions in 8 days. The NFC was last week. The AFC started this week. Taryn and Kale both spoke about their AFC West teams on their show. John talked about the Panthers. Last week, I talked about the Bears. My co-host for Neutral Zone, Zach Puplis, he talked about the Lions. You go back, listen to those broadcasts. A lot of fun doing those shows. But we can kind of dive in and do a little bit more Bears-centric here on this show a little bit. This is a very different season for the Bears because, let's face it, we all know expectations are very low for this season, that it's going to be a low bar. You've got a brand new coach in Matt Eberflus, a brand new general manager in Ryan Poles. What can we expect? We know from Eberflus that he's a coach's coach. He loves to throw, his hits philosophy, his having an acronym for things and having things to put up on the whiteboard to really get after it. High energy, high efficiency, high motor. We're going to get on our track shoes and we're going to go running. Everybody, before you even say hi to me, you've got to drop 10 pounds, kind of a head coach. Very old school mentality. If like in anything else with sports, if you're winning, it's great. If you're losing, then it's a problem. So certainly it can work. Certainly there's nothing to say that it can't work. Bears, of course, transitioning back into doing a cover 2 base defense this year. So that's meant obviously some big departures. Taryn, enjoy having Khalil Mack out there in Los Angeles, man. Enjoy the heck out of him. He's an amazing edge rusher. I understand why the Bears chose not to keep him, but he's going to be missed in Chicago. 52 is going to be very, very missed in Chicago this season. And Robert Quinn, even though he's coming off of a season where he set the Bears' single-season record with 18.5 sacks, and he did it in just 16 games, too, for anybody that wants to argue and maintain that Richard Dent is still the true holder of the record for the Bears. Quinn did it in 16 games. He did not need the 17th game to break Dent's record. Yeah, Taryn reminding us of the trade. Yeah, it was a second and a sixth. It was a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick in this year's draft that the Bears got for Khalil Mack. I was stunned by the trade. It's tremendous value by the Chargers, and that's what the market bore for Khalil Mack, which is depressing, but it is what it is. When you're an edge rusher over 30, if you're not a quarterback or a wide receiver in your 20s, the market's just not going to bear out for those guys. So that's unfortunately what it was. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Quinn has hemmed and hawed about back and forth about whether he'll show up. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Quinn is going to be trade bait in season. He has historically been better with his hand in the dirt in a 4-3 system rather than a 3-4. So theoretically, he could do very well in this system. I would not be surprised, though, if come trade deadline, if he's having a particularly strong season, that the Bears move on from Robert Quinn. And then the big news right now is everybody's getting tuned in and getting settled in. There are two key members of this defense that, as of right now, are not going to be at training camp. One is the player that the Bears got for that second-round pick from the Los Angeles Chargers in the Khalil Mack deal. Strong safety Jaquan Brisker. As of right now, he has not signed his rookie contract yet. They are having they've reached a stalemate on the deal. It's really picky what seems to be the holdup too. Reportedly, the holdup is the amount of guaranteed money in the third season of the deal. So we're talking about some money that Brisker would be guaranteed going into the 2024 season. As you may or may not remember, anymore now with the NFL draft, the money that the players are allocated is slotted. It's based on where you're drafted. You look at how much the player in front of you got in guaranteed money and what the player immediately behind you got in guaranteed money, and your money has to land somewhere in the middle. So in this case, the player taken one spot ahead of Jaquan Brisker has been guaranteed $111,000 in the third year of his deal, and the player taken immediately behind Jaquan Brisker has been guaranteed nothing in the third year of his deal. So Jaquan Brisker has to be guaranteed somewhere between $1 and $110,999. And that's the holdup. $110,000 in NFL money is peanuts. A guy's signing bonus will be less than that. Get the deal done, Poles. There is no reason for this to be holding on. Get it done. I realize that you're in your first year as a general manager and you don't want to come off as a pushover right out of the gate. You also don't want to look like a Scrooge right out of the gate either. Come up with a number that maybe is a little higher than what you were wanting to do, but it's a little lower than maybe he was hoping to get. You both feel like you compromised and you move on. Let's make this happen. Is that 75,000? Is that 80,000? Is that 90,000? I don't know. But figure it out. Get it done. That's a simple one to fix. The bigger one is Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith should be a stud in this defense. He's been one of the most underrated middle linebackers in the NFL since coming into the league. And he made his intentions known today that he does not plan on reporting to camp until he gets a contract extension. Now, to put it into perspective here of what he's looking at, Roquan Smith is still on his rookie deal. I'm pulling up Spot Rack right now. He's on his rookie deal, which is a 4-year, basically $18.5 million deal with an $11.5 million signing bonus. Fully guaranteed at signing because he was a first-round pick. And, of course, he's on the 5th-year option, basically, right now. He's on the 5th-year. He's on the 5th-year team option of the deal. Because you remember, all first-round rookies get a 4-year deal, fully guaranteed, and automatically there's a team option for a fifth year built in. The Bears picked up his fifth year. That's what he would be playing on this season. Roquan has made it known that he does not want to play on that fifth year. He wants fresh paperwork. I like John pulling out in the Carolina cast. He was a fan of Roquan Smith coming out of Georgia. You know who he reminded me of when he came out, and I said it as soon as the Bears drafted it, was they got their version of Lance Briggs. And Lance Briggs was a Pro Bowler and a Hall of Famer in this defense. I don't know if the plan is to keep him in the middle or if their plan is to bump him to the outside in this defense, in this version of the cover two. But either way, I think Roquan Smith has got all the intangibles there to get the job done. Sorry, I totally missed the reference there, John. I'm sorry. I totally missed it there. Sorry about that. But this is a big one. Jaquan Brisker, okay, that's one of your draft picks. You never like to start off seeing a guy miss part of his first camp because of a contract dispute. But this is a big one. Roquan Smith, if you're without him, I mean, think about in the Lovie Smith days, whenever the Bears were without Urlacher or Briggs. Think about how badly that defense was damaged by not having those guys. That's what you're looking at here by not including Roquan Smith. I'm not sure what it would take to get a Roquan Smith deal done. He's certainly been underappreciated around league circles, but he's still a damn good linebacker, and he's somebody you need. I would not at all be opposed to an extension for him, but at the same time, this is not, Ryan Poles didn't draft him. Ryan Poles doesn't really have any attachments to Roquan Smith. If he feels that Smith isn't going to be part of the future, he's not emotionally invested in Smith, and he's not financially invested in him. So, not having Roquan Smith would be a huge, huge blow to this defense. So hopefully that gets resolved and resolved quickly. But we'll just have to keep our eyes on that. As for some of the guys that are going to be there, of course, all eyes are going to be, what is this offense going to look like under new first-year offensive coordinator Luke Getsy? Comes down from the Packers. Reportedly, Aaron Rodgers, of course, was very upset when he lost Getsy. Getsy had been the quarterback coach up there. Wasn't going to get the chance to call plays, of course, in Green Bay because they've got Matt LaFleur, offensive, head coach, but also the play caller. So now Getsy gets a chance to not only be a coordinator, but he gets a chance to call the plays, which is always big, especially when you're wanting to be on the head coaching track. That's a big thing to have. So what is this offense going to look like now that Getsy is tailoring it to Justin Fields and his skill set? The other huge question offensively is, what is the offensive line going to look like? What have we got going on with the line at this point? It is a mess. It is a mess all up and down the offensive line at this point. The Bears actually today just signed a veteran, similar to the Jason Peters signing of a year ago. And Taryn, this will be a name familiar to you. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a brief scouting report in the chat room. Michael Schofield signed a 1-year deal. The 31-year-old, he's got 81 starts over 7 seasons in the league. Played for 3 seasons with the Broncos. And John, you can give us a little bit of a report on this on Schofield as well, because he played with the Panthers during the 2020 COVID season and then 2 separate stints with the Chargers, 17, 18, and 19, and also last season with the Chargers. He's played both inside and outside. The Bears could theoretically need help in both. It's a big hodgepodge mess. Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins, guys entering their second seasons. This regime doesn't seem to be as high on Borum as the previous one was. Tevin Jenkins, it feels like at this point, is going to be the right tackle, even though the last regime drafted him with hopes of being the left tackle. I think Jenkins, it makes more sense to have him on the right side anyway. That's where he had played a lot of in college. You're going to argue. I've even made the argument. Part of the reason for that was because the other guys that they had at left tackle basically couldn't play right tackle. So Jenkins slid over, and he was a better right tackle than either of the other guys. But it feels like Jenkins is just going to be the right tackle. You've got Lucas Patrick also coming down from the Packers. He could play center or guard. But the big questions right now are going to be, who's going to be your left tackle? Who's going to be your right guard? I've been hearing a lot lately talking about Sam Mustipher. Sam Mustipher's a holdover. And I agree with a lot of what I've been hearing that Sam Mustipher is a center. He's not really somebody you can kick into the guard position. But what they did last year as a result was they played Sam Mustipher at center and then James Daniels at guard, because Daniels was a better guard than Mustipher was. The problem was Daniels was also a better center than Mustipher was. And I'm getting a little bit of stuff on Schofield. Taryn saying, is it a decent offensive lineman? Not over the top, but reliable. That's good, somebody steady. And Schofield, he actually had COVID during the COVID season, so he didn't play very much for the Panthers. Well, all right. So he collected some paychecks from Carolina. Hopefully he does a little bit more than that for the Bears. But Mustipher, I feel like Mustipher should be the backup center on this team. I know that you ideally, when you have your 7 active game day linemen, you want your starting 5, and then you want a guy that can be a backup inside and a backup outside offensive lineman. And Mustipher's not really a backup inside guy because he pretty much only does center. But I don't like the idea of starting your second string center because you need your first string center to play guard. I'd like for Lucas Patrick to be the center. And then whether that means you have Schofield play right guard, or you have Larry Borum play right guard, or you just drafted a bunch of offensive linemen. Perhaps one of them is able to produce for you early on the offensive line. Or maybe, somebody like Sean Coleman, or somebody else on this team is able to bump in and play that inside spot. But I would like to see I would like to see Lucas Patrick be at center because you're having your best guy at center, and that's an important spot. Maybe a Pig Simmons play in the inside. Cody Whitehair is going to be your left guard, but you've got some options there. I hesitate. I don't like the idea of handicapping the offensive line right out of the gate by starting your second string center so that you can use your first string center to go play guard. I'd rather have my first string center play center. Call me crazy. The other thing going into training camp, of course, is you want to look at the rookies. How are the rookies looking? How are they going to do? How are they going to perform? We talked a little bit about Brisker because unfortunately he's the only guy not going to be in camp at the moment. But then you've also got Kyler Gordon going to be lining up, you would think, on the other side of Jaylon Johnson. That has the potential to look amazing out there. Brisker, once he signs, hopefully we're able to see some great things for him. I'm very excited. As much as I wish the Bears would have gotten some weapons for Justin Fields earlier in the draft, I can't argue with the picks that the Bears made. I can't argue with the guys that they actually got. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker should be immediate starters for the Bears. And the secondary was so bad a season ago. If these guys are able to produce at a professional level quickly, man, that's going to be so helpful. Maybe not necessarily for this season, because this season's not going to be all that great. But if the secondary can be great, that bodes so well for the Bears for the next couple seasons as you really get into this Justin Fields era. And then, of course, you've got guys like Velus Jones, Braxton Jones, who is potentially going to be the starting left tackle for the Bears out of the gate. He took some reps there during some mini camps. The other guy that I am fascinated to watch and try to figure out as we get into this season is Dominique Robinson, the 5th-round pick out of Miami of Ohio. Now, I raved about him both last week during 8 Divisions in 8 Days and when the Bears drafted him. I am fascinated by this kid, if for no other reason, his story. Starting off his collegiate career as a wide receiver and then changing to edge rusher. I have just never heard of that before. And then for him last season in 12 games to get 6.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. I am very intrigued by this kid. I don't know what to expect from him because he's still learning at the position. He's still so new to the position of edge rusher. But because he started off as a wide receiver, that he's got athleticism. If they can figure out a package for him, if Eberflus and company can figure out a package and a way to use him, then even if it's just third downs and, just go get the, third down and obvious passing downs, and that's the only time you use him, I'm fascinated to see what he can do. It's going to be very interesting, very exciting. All right, a little bit more Bears, and then we've got to take a quick break. I saw the orange helmet get debuted yesterday on Bears social media. I loved the helmet right up until they showed me what jersey it was going to be on. For those who missed it, the Bears are going to be wearing, as every team is, they're going to be wearing some alternate uniforms throughout the season, and they're going to be doing On 2 separate occasions, they're going to be wearing an orange helmet with a navy blue C as opposed to the traditional. The problem? They're also wearing their orange jerseys at the same time. If you look at just the helmet by itself, oh man, it pops. It is sharp looking. It is really cool. Then you put the orange shirt and everything just gets blinded out. All you just see is a massive field of orange. I get it. I think the NFL, part of it is they're doing the Thursday night package. I wonder if maybe they're not doing a color rush thing like they did a few years ago where everybody wears, a really solid color scheme heading into the Thursday night games. That's how we wound up famously with the ketchup and mustard game between I think it was the Rams and the Buccaneers, who came out, the Rams in an all yellow outfit and the Buccaneers in an all red outfit. I don't know if that's what the NFL's going for this year, but that's certainly what the Bears look like. It's just an orange mess going on over there. I'd love to see them wear them for a road game, wear the orange helmets with the white jerseys. I think that would look phenomenal. And then one last quick note before we get out of here. I did see that the city of Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, released some updated plans for ways to try to update and upgrade Soldier Field in a vain effort to try to keep the Bears from leaving. It's better than last time. The pictures look really sharp. And you don't have any stupid ideas like you're going to pave over the marina or anything like that, or you're going to put a farmer's market in there this time. But it still doesn't solve the problem of the Bears won't own it. So, once again, unless you're going to just sell the stadium to the Bears after making these upgrades, the Bears are not going to be interested. It's not going to actually fix the problem. So, once again, good effort. Not really going to fix the problem. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to take a break from football talk. We're going to talk about some White Sox and some Sky here on Chi-Town Weekly. Back right after this.
Down! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? This is Ben Metello, the host of the Yinza Report, right here on IE Sports Radio. I'm bringing you the latest in the Steel City, the City of Champions, from the Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates, as well as the college game with both Penn State and Pitt. You could join me every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, where I'll be talking about everything from the Steel City, the City of Champions, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Did a lot of football there in the first part of the show. Did that feel good to you? It felt really good to me. We're going to, of course, be doing lots and lots and lots more football as everything gets started and gets underway here as we get closer and closer to the start of the season. But with training camp starting tomorrow, we just could not hold off football any longer. But we do have to get on to some of the other things going on around the city. For example, the Cubs are playing the Pirates right now. They are tied at 1 heading into the top of the third. This could be the final homestand for both Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ. Both were rumored over the All-Star break that the Cubs could be getting offers from the San Diego Padres for both Contreras and Ian Happ, both All-Stars from the Cubs. So certainly something to keep an eye on as we get closer to next Tuesday's trade deadline, 5 o'clock Central Time next Tuesday evening. So we'll have some trade deadline talk next week's show as well. But got to talk about the White Sox. The White Sox. Of course, you might remember on last week's show, I was so befuddled by the Sox because they went into the All-Star break about as hot as you possibly could be. They had taken 3 out of 4 from the Twins in Minnesota, as well as the final 2 games of a 4-game set against Cleveland. So 5 out of 6, and suddenly looking at it that, hey, maybe they finally figured this out, and maybe they can actually start getting after this division a little bit. And then they come out of the All-Star break with a 4-game series in 3 days against Cleveland. And they immediately drop the first 2. Instantaneously drop the first 2 games. And, not even competitive. 8-2 in the first game on Friday night. Fell behind 6-0 2 innings into the game. And then dropped the front end of the Saturday doubleheader 7-4. Almost lost the back end of the doubleheader They had to come from behind. They were down 4-2 going into the 8th inning in the second half of the doubleheader. So, or excuse me, 4-3. I'm sorry, 4-3 going into the 8th inning. All I can do at this point, I have to be done with you, White Sox. I'm throwing up my hands. I am exasperated. I am exhausted. They're not going to sell at the deadline. They're not going to be sellers at next Tuesday's deadline. If for no other reason than the rest of this division, the Twins and the Guardians just aren't good enough to run away and hide from the Sox over the next week. You know, the Sox have the Rockies and the Athletics this week. They're off tonight. They're in Colorado for a quick 2-game series with the Rockies. They'll probably split that. Who knows? You know, they'll probably split those 2 games. And they got 3 games. Then they come right back home to play this weekend against the A's. My God, if they don't take at least 2 of those 3 against the A's and close out the month. And looking at the Twins real quick, they've got the Brewers and the Padres over that same time span. That should work in the Sox' favor. You know, the Twins, I wouldn't be shocked if the Twins drop 4 of those, maybe even all 5 of those. And then looking at Cleveland real quick, their remaining schedule for the month. They've got the Red Sox and then the Rays. Now, the Red Sox, you want to talk about having the right time to be facing the Red Sox. Woo, if you didn't see what the Blue Jays did to them over the weekend, oh my God. Whoa. 28-5 or whatever it was in that one game. Oh my goodness. That was a beatdown. But those 3 games against the Rays, those could be rough. The point is the Guardians aren't going to run away and hide with this thing over the next couple series. So the Sox aren't going to sell. And I know the big thing is, get them some bullpen help. Get them some bullpen help. You need hitting. For as much as this team was built on hitting and built around offense, this offense stinks for the White Sox. And getting bullpen help isn't going to fix that. So I wash my hands of you White Sox at this point. I expect nothing more than 500 at this point. You know, 80 and 82 is very conceivable for this team. And who knows, maybe with as bad as this division is, maybe 80 and 82 will be good enough to win the division. I hope not. But you never know. Certainly they're not making any deep postseason runs this season. They just need too much for this season. Good evening, Mike. Hey, Mike Pat jumping in right at the last second. Talking a little bit of baseball, and then we're going to talk some WNBA before we get out of here tonight. And Kale liking the idea of the retractable roof for the Bears. That is certainly what they're going to do in Arlington Heights. As for what they'd be doing at Soldier Field, I don't know, because it just doesn't matter. They're so missing the point by thinking that just putting a roof on Soldier Field is going to make the Bears stay. That's not the point. But as for the White Sox, at this point, I'm washing my hands of them. I expect mediocrity from the White Sox for this season. That's what they've shown all this season. They just when you think they might be getting hot, they figure out a way to go cold again. And whether it's injuries, and there's been a lot of those. Yeah, 80 and 82 sounds like hope for your. The difference is, Mike, you'd be rejoicing, I imagine. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike. If the Orioles were to go 80 and 82 this season, you would be ecstatic. You would be, oh my goodness, the future's looking so bright. The White Sox going in 80-82. This was a team that was supposed to be competing for the World Series. This is a team that was supposed to be, the Central is a foregone conclusion, and what do they need to do to be ready for October? What do they need to do to beat the likes of Houston? What do they need to do to beat the likes of the Yankees? And then what to do when and if you wind up, and okay, thank you for confirming that. Yeah, Mike would be doing backflips if the Orioles were to go 80-82. I know many Sox fans that 80-82, they'd be crying into their beer, because this was a team that we're talking about how to beat the Astros, how to beat the Yankees, how to beat the Dodgers in the World Series. They can't even beat the Orioles. They can't even beat the Guardians more than twice in a 4-game set. They've got 5 games coming up against the Rockies and then the A's. I fully expect them to somehow go 2-3 in those 5 games. They should go 4-1 or just take all 5. They'll figure out a way to drop at least 2 of them, probably 3. Old style would be a classic Chicago beer style of choice. Goose Island, also made right here in Chicago. Goose Island would be a very solid choice. Any of the 312 Brewing. I am also a fan of Southwest Michigan style beers. Oberon is darn tasty. Good choice there. But Goose Island would be also a solid Chicago choice there. And at the end of the day, whatever you can get for the right price on tap, whatever the wallet can afford, Bud Light, if that's what the wallet can do. Before we get out of here real quick, I do want to talk some WNBA. The Sky, they have a little in-season exhibition game tomorrow night. They are playing in the Commissioner's Cup tomorrow night against the Las Vegas Aces. For those who may not know, this is the second year of the Commissioner's Cup. The Commissioner's Cup, it's an in-season tournament that the WNBA does. The NBA has been thinking about doing something like this, and they have, they're kind of letting the WNBA be a little bit of an experimental, an experimenting ground for this, of an in-season tournament, where basically you look at the first time you host the team in the league and the first time you go to travel to that team in the league, the records from those games are kind of held off to the side. They, of course, count towards the regular standings, but then they also take a look at those first couple matches and keep them off to the side. And the 2 teams that do the best play in what's called the Commissioner's Cup. And the Chicago Sky did the best in this tournament, so they will host the Las Vegas Aces. Kale's Las Vegas Aces, by the way, is Kale's the host of Sin City Sports tomorrow night. So on tomorrow night's show, Kale and I will be going back and forth about the Aces in the Sky. Yes, it is a lot easier to let the WNBA host this tournament and kind of do the experimenting ground. But the Sky are fierce, and the Aces have been really strong. This could be a WNBA Finals preview that we're getting. Now, it looked like that last year, too, the first year they had the Commissioner's Cup, when it was the Seattle Storm and the Connecticut Sky. That didn't wind up coming to pass. But this should be a tremendous matchup and a great opportunity for the Sky, who are just still crazy hot. Yes, they lost their last game against the Liberty, but that's in part because it was their 3rd game in 4 days. They beat the Dallas Wings on Friday, and then they beat the aforementioned Seattle Storm last week, Wednesday. And they've been doing this without All-Star guard Courtney Vandersloot. She's still out with a concussion. She's still in the league's concussion protocols. Yes, the Sky have locked up a playoff spot to this point, Taryn. Yes, they have already clinched a playoff spot. They've got 2 more regular season games this month, and then they've got 6 more games next month. They have clinched. They have clinched a playoff spot to this point. So has Vegas. Chicago and Vegas are the only 2 teams at this point to have clinched a playoff spot. Indiana's already eliminated. Everything else is yet in play. The top 8 teams all make it in. Chicago is playing some tremendous basketball. Obviously, they're without Vandersloot right now, but Khalil Copper has picked up right where she left off. Playing overseas didn't slow her up one bit. She hasn't tired her out one bit. She's coming in and playing great. Emma Meesman has been playing some terrific ball as of late. And Candace Parker, what more can be said about Candace Parker? In back-to-back games, over the span of 2 games, she jumped from being 6th all-time in the WNBA rebound list to she is now 4th. She jumped 2 spots in 2 games. She is now 4th all-time in the WNBA in rebounds. So congratulations to Candace Parker, as well as she won an ESPY for top player in the WNBA over the MLB All-Star break. She got that honor. So it should be a good game tomorrow night between the Sky and the Aces. Doesn't mean anything to the overall standings. It does. The players get a little bit of an extra bonus. They get a little bit of extra money depending on how the game goes. They get a bigger bonus for winning the game than if they lose the game tomorrow. But they get a bonus for making it in. Certainly going to be a fun stretch as Chicago looks to clinch the top overall seed in the Eastern Conference and possibly even in the entire league. All right, that is going to do it for our show tonight. Thank you once again to our supporters, the Southern California Warriors, for continuing to sponsor the station. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, M. Los Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Check out our website, iesportsradio.com. Our Patreon link is there. Please, if you are at all able, we really appreciate it. Even just $5, it really does help the station continue to move forward. Thank you to everybody hanging out in the chat room tonight. Taryn, Kale, Mike, John hanging out as we got the football juices running a little bit this week, but then had some fun with some other sports too. Stick around because right after us, Taryn is going to be breaking down all things happening in the wonderful world of volleyball. Honestly, not sure what's on tap, what's going on right now in the world of volleyball, but Taryn will get us all up to date and caught up on that. He had an awesome interview last week. I want to give him props for that. That was a terrific interview he did with the New Jersey head coach in the National Volleyball Association. Great job, Taryn. So be sure to stick around to him for that. Thank you to Larry for all the crazy work you do behind the scenes and then for restarting 8 divisions in 8 days. That was a lot of fun. Had some fun doing that. Go back, check out the playback on that, or just listen to the AFC week that's going on this week. Next week, we will be doing a lot of baseball trade deadline as the Cubs get ready to sell and the White Sox look to add something. I have no idea. I seriously, I have no idea what the Sox could possibly add at this point that would make a difference, but by golly, they're going to try. So we will break it down and analyze whatever it is they do. Until then, be safe, be healthy, enjoy this wonderful summer that we've been having. A little bit of a drop in the temperature today, which felt great, but the warm weather will be right back. Enjoy it while we've got it. Until then, I am Adam Karnick. This is Chi-Town Weekly for IE Sports Radio. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.